Picture a crowded bus in the early morning. Wet coats breathe out the smell of rain. Someone's bag bumps your knee, and a tired man steps on your shoe and does not even notice. You feel the heat rise in your chest. The words jump to your tongue like sparks from a fire, and you are already ready to snap, to teach him manners, to let the whole bus hear your righteousness. And then, just imagine, you do nothing for 2 seconds. Not forever, not like a saint on a mountain. 2 seconds. You keep your mouth closed. You take one breath. You look at the man's face, and you let your anger pass through you the way wind passes through a doorway. In those 2 seconds, you do not lose your dignity. You collect it. Shalom, dear friends. My name is Adam. I grew up in a Jewish home where words were treated like bread. You did not throw them on the floor. You did not waste them, and you did not serve them half-baked. In our family, my father Samuel had a way of making a whole room quiet with just one pause, and my grandfather Naum used to say things that stayed in the mind like the smell of cinnamon in a warm kitchen. Today we will examine a small rule that looks almost childish in its simplicity, but it changes how people see you, at work, at home, even among strangers. I will show you what most people do too fast, what it costs them, and how 2 seconds can turn you from someone easily brushed aside into someone quietly respected. And I ask you to watch until the end. In the finale, I will share one short truth grandfather Naum gave me. A truth without which all the other advice simply doesn't work, because it is the thread that ties every situation together. This problem is everywhere because we live in a world that worships speed. People answer before they understand, react before they feel, speak before they think, and then they wonder why respect is so thin in their lives, like soup stretched with too much water. The tragedy is not only that we are misunderstood, it is that we teach others to misunderstand us. Grandfather Naum used to say, "A hurried word is like a coin thrown into the river. You will never get it back, and you will still feel poorer." The 2-second rule I'm talking about is simple. When someone speaks to you, when something surprises you, when you feel the urge to rush, wait 2 seconds before you answer or act. Not to play games, not to manipulate, to arrive in the moment like a human being, not like a reflex. Those 2 seconds are small, but they are a doorway. And the way you step through a doorway determines how people look at you inside the room. The first trap is what I call the spring-loaded tongue. It is the habit of answering like a mousetrap snaps shut, fast, sharp, without mercy, sometimes without thought. You see it in families over dinner, in meetings where people fight for oxygen, and in friendships where one careless sentence can hang in the air for days like smoke after a candle goes out. You surely know these moments. Someone says, "We need to talk," and you shoot back, "About what now?" A colleague asks, "Can you help me for a minute?" And you answer, "I'm busy, can't you see?" Your spouse says, "You forgot again," and you snap, "Because I'm the only one who does anything around here." Or someone makes a small joke, and you reply with a bite, "Very funny. Are you done?" What are you really saying when you answer like that? You are telling the world, "I am under attack," even when you are not. You are telling yourself, "If I don't defend myself immediately, I will be harmed." It often comes from old fear, fear of being blamed, fear of being seen as weak, fear of losing control. Father Samuel once told me, "If you answer before you understand, you are not speaking to the person. You are speaking to your own panic." The damage is quiet but severe. People begin to walk around you as if around a sleeping dog, careful, tense, never relaxed. They do not bring you good news because they fear your sharpness, and they do not bring you bad news because they fear your explosion. Respect cannot grow in a field where every footstep might trigger a mine. Let me tell you about Haim, a man I once knew in a small office that smelled of printer ink and burnt coffee. Haim was 42, broad-shouldered, intelligent, and always slightly tired, as if he had been fighting invisible battles all night. In meetings, the moment someone questioned his idea, he would lean forward and fire back. "So you think I didn't consider that?" he would say. Or, "If you have a better plan, let's hear it." One day, a young colleague named Leah brought a proposal. She held her papers with both hands like a student at an exam. She said softly, "Haim, I think we can reduce costs if we change suppliers. Heim didn't even let her finish. We tried that already, he snapped, and it was a disaster. Next, Leah's cheeks reddened. She nodded, gathered her papers, and sat down. The meeting moved on, but the air changed. Later, in the hallway, Leah walked past Heim as if he were a closed door. A month after that, she transferred to another department, and the manager told Heim. She didn't feel heard here. Heim came to me one evening after work, rubbing his forehead. I don't understand, he said. I'm not a bad person. I just don't have patience for nonsense. The cleaning lady, an older woman named Martha with tired eyes, was emptying trash bins nearby. She paused, looked at him, and said something that landed like a stone in water. Son, she said, nobody is asking you to swallow nonsense. They're asking you to swallow your first bite. That sentence stayed with him. The next meeting, when someone disagreed, he opened his mouth, and then he closed it. 2 seconds. He looked down, breathed once, and said, "Tell me more." It wasn't magic. He still felt the heat. But people felt something else too. Space. And in space, respect can breathe. If you recognize yourself in this, do not try to become silent forever. Just give yourself 2 seconds before your first reply. Let your first impulse pass like a wave that hits the shore and retreats. Replace the quick defense with one sentence you can trust. Let me think for a moment. Those words are not weakness. They are a fence around your dignity. The second trap is what I call the disappearing gaze. It happens when someone speaks to you and your eyes run away like a child who broke a vase. You look at the floor, at the wall, at your phone, at anything except the face in front of you. In a strange way, this is also a kind of speed. Your attention flees the moment before the moment can judge you. You see it at the cash register when the clerk says, "Have a good day," and you mumble without looking up. You see it at work when someone says, "Can you explain your decision?" and you stare at your notes as if the paper can protect you. You see it in hard conversations when your partner says, "Are you listening?" and you answer, "Of course," while your eyes are somewhere else. Sometimes it shows up as nervous scanning. Your gaze jumps from face to face, never landing, like a bird that cannot settle. What are you telling the world with disappearing eyes? You are saying, "I am not fully here," and people interpret it in painful ways. Some think you are hiding something. Some think you are arrogant. Some think you do not care. Often the truth is simpler. You are afraid of being seen. Grandmother Rachel used to say, "A person who cannot hold a gaze is carrying a secret, even if the secret is only shame." The damage is subtle but heavy. Trust is built through presence, and presence is felt first through the eyes and the stillness of attention. When you do not give that, people feel alone in your company. They may still speak with you, work with you, live with you, but a thin glass wall grows between you, and both sides pretend it is not there. I remember my neighbor Boris, a quiet man in his late 50s who fixed bicycles in a small shed behind his house. The shed always smelled of rubber and metal and a little bit of oil, like an old workshop from another century. Boris was skilled. Children came to him with broken chains and bent wheels, and he would repair them with the patience of a watchmaker. But when parents tried to talk to him about payment, about timing, about anything, his eyes would drop immediately. One afternoon, a father named David came with his son's bicycle. David was polite but firm. "Boris," he said, "last time the wheel came loose after 2 days. I need to know it will hold." Boris looked at the ground and began to fiddle with a wrench. "It will be fine," he muttered. David's voice tightened. "Look at me when you speak," he said. Boris flinched as if struck. The boy watched, wide-eyed, feeling something adult and heavy enter the air. Boris finally raised his gaze for a split second, then looked away again. David took the bicycle and said, "Forget it. I'll go somewhere else." Later I saw Boris sitting on his doorstep, shoulders collapsed. I asked him gently, "Why do you hide your eyes?" He swallowed. "When I was a boy," he said, "if you looked an angry man in the face, it got worse." And there it was, the old lesson still driving the present. That evening my father Samuel happened to visit. Boris told him the story. Father listened, then said quietly, "Boris, you are not in that room anymore. Give a good man 2 seconds of your eyes." It is not a challenge. It is a gift. Boris practiced. The next time someone spoke to him, he held their gaze for 2 seconds longer than felt comfortable. And slowly, like a plant turning toward light, people began to trust him again. If this is your trap, you do not need to stare like a soldier. Just do this. When someone addresses you, meet their eyes, breathe, and hold the gaze for 2 seconds before looking away. Those 2 seconds say, I am with you. And when people feel you are with them, they stop trying to test you. The third trap is what I call the flood of explanation. It happens when you feel judged by a boss, a spouse, a stranger, and you pour out words the way a tipped bucket pours water. You explain too quickly, too much, too desperately, as if the right amount of talking will scrub away the possibility that you made a mistake. Listen to how it sounds in daily life. I'm late, but it's not my fault. The traffic was terrible, and then my phone died, and I couldn't find parking, and anyway I left early. I didn't answer because I was busy, not because I ignored you. I swear I'm not that kind of person. I know it's not perfect, but I had so much on my plate, and nobody helped me, and you don't understand what I'm dealing with. Or the famous sentence that digs the hole deeper. Let me just explain. What are you really saying when you flood the room with explanation? You are saying, please don't be angry with me. Please don't think badly of me. This comes from a hunger for approval and a fear of rejection. Grandfather Nam had a proverb for it. When you polish your shoes in front of guests, they will stare at the dirt you pointed out. The damage is almost comical, but it is not funny when you live it. The more you over-explain, the more people suspect there is something to hide. The more you plead, the less stable you appear. And stability is one of the quiet pillars of respect. People can forgive an error. They struggle to respect someone who seems to collapse under the weight of one question. I once worked with a client named Miriam, 35, bright, quick, always 10 steps ahead in her mind. She ran a small business, and she was good at it, but she carried herself as if she were always on trial. One day she had a meeting with a potential partner, a calm woman named Helena with silver hair and a notebook she barely used. Miriam presented her plan, hands moving fast, words running even faster. Helena listened, then asked one simple question: what happens if the delivery is delayed? Miriam's eyes widened as if Helena had accused her of a crime. Well, you see, delays are rare, but sometimes suppliers, they can be unpredictable, and I always try to. Of course, I have backup plans, and I've been doing this for years, and my team. Helena raised her hand gently. Miriam, she said, I only asked about a delay. Miriam laughed nervously. Yes, of course. I just want you to understand that I'm reliable. Helena's face softened, but something cooled too. The meeting ended politely, and the partnership did not happen. Afterward, Miriam called me, voice thin. I don't know what I did wrong, she said. So I asked her to meet me in a little cafe where the tables were small and the tea came in glass cups with metal holders. Like in old train stations. I listened to her replay the conversation, and then I told her something Grandfather Nam once told me when I was a boy caught in a lie I didn't even mean to tell. He had looked at me, not angry, just clear. Adam, he said, truth walks on 2 feet. Excuses crawl on their belly. I repeated this to Miriam. She went quiet, staring at the tea as if it held an answer. Then she whispered, so what should I do? I said, next time, when you feel the urge to rush into defense, wait 2 seconds. Then answer the question you were asked, not the fear you felt. A week later, she tried again in another meeting. When asked a hard question, she paused, breathed, and said simply, if delivery is delayed, we inform you within an hour and activate our backup supplier. Here's the process. Her voice did not wobble, and the other person leaned in, interested. Respect returned, not because she became perfect, but because she became steady. If you recognize this flood in yourself, the action is small. Pause 2 seconds before you explain. Then say one sentence that is clean and simple. You are right, I'm late. Thank you for waiting. Or, I missed your message. I'll answer by tomorrow. Let your calm be your apology. Let your clarity be your defense. The fourth trap is what I call the borrowed laugh. It is the nervous smile, the quick chuckle, the little joke you throw in when you feel tension, especially when you should be serious. Many people do it without noticing. It is a way to soften the world before the world can strike. But it also teaches others that you do not take yourself seriously. So why should they? You hear it when someone says, "We need to discuss your performance," and you reply with a grin, "Oh, am I fired?" You hear it when a friend says, "You hurt me," and you answer, half laughing, "Oh, come on, you're so sensitive." You hear it when you set a boundary and then undo it with comedy. "I can't stay late tonight, unless you want me to sleep under my desk, haha." And sometimes it is even worse. You laugh at your own needs before anyone else can. What are you saying with this borrowed laugh? You are saying, "Please don't be uncomfortable with me," even when discomfort is the honest price of a real conversation. It often grows from the fear of conflict, the fear of being disliked, the fear of standing firm. Grandmother Rachel used to say, "When you make a joke of yourself, do not be surprised when others take you as entertainment." The damage is not only in how others treat you, but in how you treat your own soul. You begin to abandon your seriousness. You sand down your edges until you are smooth enough for everyone to hold without feeling. But you also become easier to drop. People respect weight, not heaviness of mood, weight of presence. Let me tell you about a young man named Eli, 28, who worked in a busy store selling household goods. The place was always bright, always loud, with music that tried too hard to be cheerful. Eli was friendly, quick, and well-liked. But he had one habit. Whenever a customer pushed him, he laughed. A woman once shouted at him because a blender was missing a part. Eli smiled and said, "Looks like the blender is on a diet, huh?" The woman's anger did not melt. It sharpened. "Don't joke with me," she snapped. Eli's smile froze, but he still chuckled nervously. Of course, I'll fix it." His manager, a stern man named Shimon with a neat beard, watched from a distance. Later, in the back room where cardboard boxes were stacked like dull towers, Shimon said, "Eli, why are you laughing when someone disrespects you?" Eli shrugged, eyes down. "I don't want trouble," he said. "If I keep it light, it passes." Shimon leaned closer. "Listen," he said, voice quiet. "Light is good for candles, not for boundaries." That line hit Eli like cold water. The next time a customer raised their voice, Eli felt the laugh rise. He waited 2 seconds. He let the laugh die in his throat. Then he said calmly, "I will help you, but please lower your voice. Let's solve it together." The customer blinked, surprised by the firmness. The air shifted. The voice lowered. And something else happened. Eli stood taller. Not because he won, but because he stayed present. If you see yourself here, practice the 2-second pause right when you feel that nervous smile arrive. Let your face rest. You do not owe the world constant sweetness. Replace the laugh with a simple sentence, "I understand," or "Let's take this seriously." The people who respect you will feel relief. The people who only liked you because you were easy may drift away, and that, too, is a kind of freedom. The fifth trap is what I call the stolen attention. It is when you cannot give another human being a full moment without your mind darting away. You glance at your phone while someone speaks. You start composing your reply while they are still talking. You nod without hearing. And in the modern world, this is so common that people call it normal, the way they call stale bread fine, because they forgot what fresh tastes like. You know the scenes. Your friend says, "I had a hard day," and you answer, hum," while scrolling. Your colleague starts explaining a problem, and you interrupt with, "Yes, yes, I know," before they finish. Your child tells you a story from school, and you say, "That's nice," while your eyes are on an email. Or you sit across from someone in a cafe, and every buzz of the phone pulls your gaze like a hook. What are you telling the world with stolen attention? You are saying, "You are not the most important thing in front of me," even if you do not mean it. And the person hears it in their bones. Ancient wisdom tells us that attention is a form of love, and love is a form of respect. Father Samuel once said at our dinner table, "The person you look at is the person you serve. Choose carefully." The damage is enormous, because relationships are not built on grand gestures. They are built on small moments of being seen. When people feel you are half present, they give you half of themselves. They stop sharing the tender parts. They stop trusting your promises. Over time, your name becomes associated not with comfort, but with distraction. I remember a colleague named Nathan, 50, smart, and constantly connected, who could answer emails faster than most people could think. We once sat in a small meeting room with a window that looked onto a parking lot shimmering with heat. A younger coworker, Sarah, came in looking pale. She said, "I need to talk about something that happened with a client." Nathan said, "Sure," but his phone was already in his hand. Sarah began carefully, "I think I made a mistake in the contract." Nathan nodded, eyes on the screen. "Uh-huh," he murmured. Sarah's voice grew smaller. "It might cost us money," she said. That should have been a moment where time slows down. But Nathan's phone buzzed again. He glanced, thumb moving. Sarah stopped speaking altogether. Silence sat between them like an uninvited guest. Finally, she said, "Never mind. I'll handle it." She stood and left, closing the door gently, as if not to disturb his real life. 2 weeks later, the mistake became expensive. Not catastrophic, but painful. In the aftermath, Nathan complained, "Why didn't she tell me clearly?" I found Sarah in the hallway and asked what happened. She looked at me with tired eyes and said, "I did tell him, but he wasn't there." Later, I told Nathan a sentence grandfather Naum once said when I was a teenager trying to talk to him while half watching something on television. He had taken the remote, turned off the screen, and said, "Adam, do not give a person leftovers of your attention. Either sit at the table or leave it." Nathan laughed at first, then went quiet. The next time someone came to him, he put the phone face down. He waited 2 seconds before speaking. He said, "I'm listening." And people began to bring him the truth again. If you want the simplest ritual in the world, here it is. When someone speaks to you, give them 2 seconds of full attention before you respond. No phone, no interruption, no rushing. Just presence. Those 2 seconds are like opening your hands to show you are not holding a stone. Now listen closely, because you may have noticed something. All these traps look different. Sharp replies, running eyes, overflowing explanations, nervous laughter, stolen attention. But inside, they are brothers. They come from the same root. The inability to tolerate the first wave of feeling. The heat of embarrassment, the sting of criticism, the fear of silence, the discomfort of someone else's emotion. Most people try to escape that wave by moving fast. And now, as I promised at the beginning, I will say those very words that grandfather Naum once told me in a way I remembered for the rest of my life. I was maybe 16, full of opinions, quick to answer, quick to defend, quick to perform. I said something careless at a family gathering, and I saw hurt flash across my aunt's face for just a moment before she covered it with politeness. Later, grandfather Naum called me to the balcony where the evening air smelled of dust and lilacs. He did not scold me. He just said, "Adam, a fool is fast because he is afraid of the moment. A wise person is slow for 2 seconds because he is not afraid to be seen." Then he added, "Between your heart and your mouth, leave a small space. In that space, God can fit." That is the final secret. The 2-second rule is not a trick for looking confident. It is a discipline of not running away from the moment. The one who cannot endure 2 seconds of feeling will spend years repairing the damage of 1 second of speech. But the one who can endure 2 seconds of silence will be seen as grounded, trustworthy, and strong, because they are no longer a servant of their impulse. Let that sink in. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a vessel. When you pause, you tell the world, "I am here, and I choose my response." People may not consciously notice the 2 seconds, but they feel it the way you feel a steady floor under your feet. You do not have to announce it. You just have to live it. So what did we walk through today? We walked through a room full of small doors where people keep tripping. The spring-loaded tongue that fires before it aims. The disappearing gaze that hides the self. The flood of explanation that begs for mercy. The borrowed laugh that betrays seriousness. And the stolen attention that turns relationships into scraps. Each one seems ordinary, almost harmless. But together they build a reputation around you the way repeated footsteps build a path in a field. The conclusion is as simple as bread on the table. People do not only listen to your words, they listen to your timing. They do not only watch what you do, they watch how you enter a moment. A rushed soul feels unsafe to others, even if it has a good heart. But a soul that can pause, just for 2 seconds, feels like a lamp in the window. And what you offer the world in your presence is what returns to your destiny, your relationships, and your peace. If these words resonated in your heart, give this video a like so it can find the person who needs it. The one who keeps losing respect not because they are bad, but because they are too fast. Subscribe to the channel so you do not get lost, and so our circle of thoughtful people keeps growing. And I want to ask you something, not as a quick comment, but as a real reflection. Where in your life did speed steal something from you? Respect, closeness, an opportunity. And what happened when you finally slowed down, even for a moment? I read your comments to understand your wisdom and to know what stories and questions to bring next. In the next video, we will go even deeper. We will talk not about the pause itself, but about what you are truly afraid will happen if you stop running, why silence can feel dangerous, and how to make it your ally. Until then, remember Grandfather Nam's balcony lesson. Leave a small space between your feeling and your response, and your life will begin to look different in the eyes of others, and in your own eyes as well. Shalom.